What really happened in Yu Menglong's final hours? For months, rumors swirled. Fans speculated. Whispers spread across social media like wildfire. And now, according to explosive claims tied to China's highest legal authority, chilling new details have surfaced that could completely change how the world sees this heartbreaking mystery. In this video, you're about to uncover the shocking timeline of events, the hidden warning signs many people missed, and the emotional truth that has left fans around the globe in disbelief. If you think you know the story, think again. Because what you're about to hear might completely flip everything you believed. Stay with me until the end, because the final revelation? It's the one detail that has everyone talking. The story begins not with chaos, but with quiet. In the weeks leading up to that tragic day, those close to Yu Menglong reportedly noticed subtle changes. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that would immediately trigger alarm bells. Just small things, moments that, in hindsight, now feel deeply unsettling. He was still smiling in public appearances. Still professional on set. Still posting the kind of calm, polished updates fans had come to expect. But behind the scenes, insiders claim the pressure around him had been building like a storm waiting to break. The Chinese entertainment industry is famously intense, fast-paced, competitive, and often unforgiving. For rising stars, the spotlight can be both a blessing and a burden. And for Yu Menglong, who had steadily built a loyal fanbase, expectations were higher than ever. According to circulating reports, the days before his final moments were unusually quiet on his schedule. Meetings were cancelled. Appearances postponed. Some staff members allegedly described the atmosphere around his team as tense but controlled. No one expected what was coming. Then came the night that changed everything. It was late, the kind of late when most of the city had already begun to wind down. Streetlights reflected faintly against the windows of his residence. Inside, everything appeared normal at first glance. But investigators would later piece together a timeline that raised more questions than answers. Sources claim Yu Menglong had spent part of that evening reviewing work materials. Messages were exchanged with members of his team. Nothing in the wording suggested panic. Nothing screamed emergency. And yet, something clearly wasn't right. One detail that stunned observers was the reported discovery of personal notes and digital traces that suggested he had been under significant emotional strain in the days leading up to his passing. While officials have never publicly confirmed the full contents, the mere existence of these materials sent shockwaves through fan communities. Because the public image of Yu Menglong had always been composed, almost carefully controlled. Could there have been struggles hidden beneath that calm exterior? Fans began revisiting old interviews, old live streams, old behind-the-scenes clips. And suddenly, moments that once seemed ordinary started looking different. A pause that lasted a little too long. A smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. A cryptic comment that, at the time, nobody thought twice about. Social media exploded with theories. Some believed industry pressure played a role. Others pointed to possible personal struggles. And then came the development that pushed the story into an entirely new level of controversy, reports that the case had drawn attention at the highest judicial level in China. When mentions of the Chinese Supreme Court began circulating online, curiosity turned into full-blown global fascination. Why would such a high authority be connected to this case? What exactly had been reviewed? And most importantly, what did they find? According to widely discussed claims, legal authorities examined the available evidence to determine whether any external factors contributed to the tragedy. While official public statements remained limited, the mere involvement of top-level review fueled endless speculation. Fans demanded transparency. Commentators demanded clarity. And the mystery only deepened. What made the situation even more emotional was the overwhelming response from supporters around the world. Within hours of the news breaking, tribute posts flooded platforms. Fan art. Candlelight edits. Heartfelt messages written in multiple languages. Many shared how Yu Menglong's dramas had helped them through difficult times. Others spoke about his gentle on-screen presence. The emotional connection was undeniable. And with every new rumor, the public's need for answers only grew stronger. Insiders later described the entertainment circle's reaction as one of quiet shock. Not loud chaos, but a heavy, somber silence that spread quickly through industry groups. Projects were paused. Conversations shifted. People who had worked with him reportedly began reflecting on their last interactions. Did anyone notice warning signs? Could anything have been done differently? These questions still echo today. One particularly haunting detail that circulated among online communities involved the timeline of his final communications. Reports suggested his last known interactions appeared calm, almost routine, which made the sudden tragedy even more difficult for many to process. Because in cases like this, people often search for obvious red flags. Clear distress signals. Something that makes the story easier to understand. But here, everything seemed eerily normal until it wasn't. And that's what made the situation so deeply unsettling for fans. The human mind struggles with sudden silence where there should have been noise. With calm where there should have been warning. As discussions intensified, some commentators began calling for broader conversations about the pressures faced by public figures in high-demand entertainment industries. The spotlight can magnify success, but it can also magnify isolation. Long filming hours. Constant public scrutiny. Relentless online commentary. For many celebrities, maintaining the perfect image becomes a full-time responsibility layered on top of an already demanding career. Whether or not those factors played a role in Yu Menglong's case remains officially unclear. But the conversation they sparked has continued to ripple through fan communities and industry discussions alike. What remains undeniable is the emotional impact his story left behind. Even now, months later, tribute videos continue to circulate. Fan pages remain active. Comment sections fill with messages like, "We still miss you. We hope the truth comes out. You deserved peace." It's the kind of digital memorial that shows just how deeply one artist can touch millions of lives without ever meeting them face to face. And perhaps that is the most powerful and heartbreaking part of this entire story. Because behind every headline, behind every rumor, behind every official statement, there was a human being whose work brought comfort, laughter, and emotion to people around the world. As for the so-called final revelation tied to the court review, one thing is clear: the case did not produce the dramatic public bombshell many had expected. Instead, what emerged was something far more complex, a reminder that not every tragedy comes with a simple, satisfying explanation. Sometimes, the hardest stories to accept are the ones that end with uncertainty. The ones where the questions linger. The ones where fans are left holding memories instead of answers. And yet, the conversation sparked by Yu Menglong's story continues to matter. It has pushed discussions about mental health, industry pressure, and the hidden struggles of public figures further into the spotlight, conversations that many believe are long overdue. If there is any lasting message from this emotional chapter, it may be this. Fame shows us the spotlight. But it rarely shows us the shadows. And sometimes, the brightest stars are carrying battles the world never sees. If you've stayed until this moment, you now understand why this story has shaken so many people across the globe. The mystery, the emotion, the unanswered questions, all of it has turned Yu Menglong's final chapter into one of the most talked about stories among fans. But the conversation doesn't end here. Because every time his dramas are rewatched, every time a fan shares a memory, every time his name trends again, the world is reminded that behind the fame was a person whose impact is still being felt today. And perhaps that is why this story refuses to fade into silence. Because some voices, even after they're gone, continue to echo. As more pieces of the timeline slowly surfaced, one thing became painfully clear: the night before everything changed was not chaotic, it was disturbingly ordinary. And sometimes, that's what makes a mystery even more chilling. Those who followed Yu Menglong closely remember how composed he appeared in the days leading up to the tragedy. Publicly, nothing seemed out of place. His image remained polished. His demeanor remained calm. To the outside world, he was still the same gentle, soft-spoken star fans had grown to love. But behind that calm surface, insiders would later hint that the atmosphere around him had shifted in subtle ways. Not dramatic enough to trigger alarm, Not obvious enough to spark immediate concern. Just different. According to discussions that spread quickly across fan circles, the final week before his passing carried an unusual quietness. Schedules reportedly became lighter. A few expected engagements were quietly adjusted. Team communications, while still professional, allegedly felt more restrained than usual. At first, no one thought much of it. After all, celebrities often go through busy and slow periods. Adjustments happen all the time in the entertainment world. But looking back now, many fans believe those small changes may have been the first faint ripples of something deeper. What makes this part of the story so haunting is how normal everything appeared on the surface. Imagine this for a moment. The city outside still glowing. Notifications still coming in. Work materials still being reviewed. Nothing outwardly signaling that anything was wrong. And yet, within hours, everything would change. Reports that circulated online claimed that on that final evening, Yu Menglong had been engaged in routine activities. Messages exchanged with team members appeared calm and professional. There were no dramatic farewell posts. No public emotional outbursts. No obvious digital distress signals that fans could immediately point to. For many observers, this became one of the most unsettling elements of the entire case. Because people often expect tragedy to come with visible warning signs. Clear emotional breakdowns. Public cries for help. Anything that prepares the world for what's coming. But here, the quiet was almost too perfect. And that's exactly what made fans start digging deeper. Online communities began re-watching his recent interviews with fresh eyes. Clips that once felt ordinary suddenly carried a different emotional weight. A slightly longer pause during one answer. A smile that faded just a fraction too quickly. A moment where his gaze seemed to drift off camera for just a second longer than usual. Individually, these moments meant nothing. But together, they started to form a pattern that fans couldn't ignore. Still, it's important to understand that much of this remains interpretation rather than confirmed fact. Public investigations never released dramatic hidden footage or shocking last-minute confessions. And that gap between public expectation and official clarity is exactly what fueled the emotional storm that followed. When mentions of a high-level judicial review began circulating, particularly involving China's top court, curiosity exploded overnight. Fans weren't just grieving anymore. They were searching. Searching for clarity. Searching for closure. Searching for something that would make the timeline make sense. The involvement of high authorities suggested that the available evidence had been carefully examined. According to widely discussed reports, the purpose was to determine whether any external wrongdoing played a role in the tragedy. And this is where the tension in the story reached a whole new level. Because when people hear that top-level legal bodies have reviewed a case, expectations rise instantly. Many believed a major hidden truth was about to be revealed. Some anticipated shocking new evidence. Others feared there might be industry secrets waiting to surface. But what ultimately emerged was far more complicated and, for many fans, far more emotionally frustrating. Instead of a dramatic bombshell, the public was left with limited official detail and a lingering sense of unanswered questions. No explosive courtroom revelations. No sweeping public exposé. Just a quiet confirmation that the case had been examined at the highest levels. And that silence spoke volumes. Across social media, reactions poured in rapidly. Some fans expressed relief that the case had received serious attention. Others felt the review only deepened the mystery. And many simply returned to the same painful question. What really happened in those final hours? The emotional weight of that question is part of why this story continues to trend long after the initial headlines faded. Human nature struggles with unfinished narratives. We want clear beginnings, clear middles, and clear endings. But real life doesn't always work that way. For those who admired Yu Menglong, the hardest part wasn't just the loss, it was the uncertainty surrounding it. The feeling that there were emotional layers the public might never fully see. Industry insiders later described the atmosphere following the news as heavy and reflective. Conversations within entertainment circles reportedly shifted toward broader concerns not just about one individual case, but about the overall pressure environment that many performers quietly navigate. Long filming schedules, constant public scrutiny, endless online commentary. For rising stars especially, the expectations can be overwhelming. Maintaining a flawless public image while managing private stress is a balancing act that few outside the industry truly understand. Whether any of these pressures directly affected Yu Menglong remains officially unconfirmed. But the conversation his story ignited has undeniably pushed more fans to look beyond the polished surface of celebrity life. And perhaps that is why the emotional impact of this case continues to resonate. Because it reminds people that behind every red carpet smile, there is still a human being. Behind every perfectly edited drama scene, there is still a real person carrying real emotions. As fan tributes continued to flood online platforms, one pattern became especially clear: Yu Menglong's audience wasn't just large, it was deeply devoted. Many shared personal stories about how his performances had comforted them during difficult moments in their own lives. Some spoke about discovering his dramas during lonely periods. Others described how his gentle on-screen presence helped them through stressful times. These weren't just casual viewers. They were emotionally invested supporters. And for them, the unanswered questions surrounding his final chapter hit especially hard. Even now, edits of his most memorable scenes continue to circulate. Comment sections remain filled with candle emojis, broken hearts, and messages of remembrance. It's a digital echo that refuses to fade, proof that the connection between artist and audience can outlast even the most painful headlines. As we continue to examine part 1 of this unfolding story, one thing stands above all speculation and rumor: the night in question remains defined more by quiet mystery than by dramatic public evidence. And sometimes, that kind of silence is the loudest clue of all. Because when a story ends without clear answers, the world keeps listening, keeps watching, keeps wondering. And that is exactly why Yu Menglong's final hours remain one of the most emotionally gripping topics among fans today. If this deep dive pulled you in, don't just scroll away, I want to hear from you. Do you think there were hidden warning signs that people missed? Why do you think this case still feels so mysterious to fans around the world? And what moment in Yu Menglong's career impacted you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, I read them all. Don't forget to like this video, share it with fellow fans who are still searching for answers, and subscribe to K-Drama Uncovered so you never miss the next shocking deep dive.